Good evening. It is May the 4th, 2021, and it is the Brevard County Commission regular meeting, and we are honored to have Pastor Tony Hawk with us. Sir, if you'd like to come forward.
Just want to pray a brief blessing, if you guys want to join me. Lord, we just want to take this opportunity to thank you for those who you've appointed over us for our good. Lord, we want to begin by praying for our county commissioners. Lord, that you would just protect them and their families, that you would bless them, cause them to be in health and prosper as their souls prosper, and give them just wisdom and grace. Lord, as we are honoring law enforcement tonight, we want to take an opportunity to ask you to bless and to protect our law enforcement and their families, that Brevard County would be protected by your grace. And Lord, we just ask your grace and your blessing on this county, on the commissioners as they do business here, that you would give them wisdom and grace and strength to make good decisions that would cause people living in this county to be able to live quiet and peaceful and prosperous lives. We ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and call this meeting to order.
Could you please stand and join me in the pledge?
We have two sets of minutes that need approved, December 22 and the January 12th. I have a motion by Commissioner Smith, a second by Commissioner Zonka. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving into resolutions, National Day of Prayer, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is Loretta Dozier here? Loretta? Do you have anybody else with you that would like to come up here? Nice to see you this evening.
Good evening.
Let me read this.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Let me read this, Loretta,
Yes,
and then you
sir.
guys, I'll give you the floor.
Yes.
Whereas civic prayers and national days of prayer have a long and venerable history in our constitutional republic, dating back to the First Continental Congress in 1775. And whereas the Declaration of Independence, our first statement as Americans of national purpose and identity, made the laws of nature and nature's God the foundation of our United States of America, and asserted that people have inalienable rights that are God-given. And whereas the Supreme Court has affirmed the right of state legislatures to open their sessions with prayer, and the Supreme Court and the U.S. Congress themselves begin each day with prayer. And whereas in 1988, legislation setting aside the first Thursday in May in each year as a National Day of Prayer was passed unanimously by both houses of Congress and signed by President Reagan. And whereas the National Day of Prayer is an opportunity for Americans of all faiths to join in united prayer to acknowledge our dependence on God, to give thanks for blessings received, to request healing for wounds, and to ask God to guide our leaders and bring wholeness to the United States and her citizens. And whereas it is fitting and proper to give thanks to God by observing a day of prayer in Brevard County, when all may acknowledge our blessings and express gratitude for them, while recognizing the need for strengthening religious and moral values in our state and our nation and our county. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, does hereby proclaim Thursday, May 6th, 2021, to be designated as a day of prayer in Brevard County, and encourage the citizens to observe this day in ways appropriate to its importance and significance. Done, ordered, and adopted in regular session this 4th day of May, 2021. Madam Chair, I move to approve this.
I have a motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Lober. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
You have the floor.
Good evening again. Thank you so much. Come Pastor Evie and Sister Margaret. My name is Loretta Dozier. I'm the founder of Dove a Bible Club, which is an after-school club that teaches character education based on the life of Jesus Christ. And we will be in 35 schools come this fall. And we thank the Lord for that. That tells us, and that tells me that our county is a county of prayer. And what you're doing tonight is it's a blessing for the people of Brevard County as well as our nation. The theme this year, Pastor Evie Ostrander right here, our senior pastor, co-pastor, and Sister Margaret, we're all volunteers of the National Day of Prayer Task Force. And this is the 70th year of prayer for America, for our nation, for our leaders. And we are so happy to be a part of that.
May righteousness reign throughout our county in all good things. We pray all the time for you all, just as the pastor came up and prayed for you. But as you look on the brochure that you were given, you do see all the sites. They range from businesses to churches to government centers, where people will be gathered praying, and they're just coming from all over the county, and we're expecting even more so even next year. And we just give God the glory for those who care about you. When you don't see us, that doesn't mean that prayer doesn't go on, but on that day we're praying for this wonderful county and thank God for all his great blessings in this wonderful county.
And thank you all. God bless you all. We pray for you, like Pastor Evie said. Margaret, did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say the same thing.
Okay.
Praise the Lord.
And we love Commissioner Smith.
Yeah.
What's not to love, right?
That's right.
Okay, we're supposed to.
Yeah, we're going to do a picture.
Okay.
Come on in here. Okay, you ready? Yes. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lober.
All right, I've got a couple resolutions, which is a bit odd for me. Normally, I don't have quite that many, but we're going to start out with one recognizing the corrections officers. I do see we have quite a full house of mostly green with a little bit of white long sleeve thrown in there as well. So anyone that wants to come up with BCSO, please feel free. I'll go ahead and get started on this as well. Whereas the citizens of Brevard County are privileged to have a group of brave men and women who are trained professionals who serve on a daily basis unarmed in the Brevard County Jail, and whereas these men and women are certified through FDLE upon completion of a corrections officer state exam, and whereas the Brevard County Jail houses inmates both sentence and pretrial on charges ranging from municipal ordinance violations to capital felonies, and the daily management of inmates requires special training, sound judgment, and courage. And whereas working as a corrections deputy is one of the most dangerous and challenging professions in the world today, and whereas these corrections deputies and corrections supervisors provide essential services and exemplify the highest of professional standards by their commitment to the citizens of Brevard County and to the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, does hereby, and that should actually have an E, I apologize, I'm hoping the framed copy does not have that typo, and if it does, I'll go ahead and fix that, does hereby proclaim the week of May 2nd through May 8th, 2021 as a Corrections Officers Appreciation Week, and encourages all citizens to recognize the demanding and unselfish commitments made by Brevard County's deputies. Done, ordered, and adopted in regular session this 4th day of May 2021. Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to adopt the resolution.
We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Our sheriff, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Lober, certainly thank you for bringing this resolution
Yes, sir.
forward. I will tell you that the men and women that stand behind me and the others that are at work and in their different capacities have one of the most dangerous jobs in the profession. They work every day in an environment that is not only at times not safe, but it's certainly a time where their professionalism lends to making sure that those that are in our custody and our care are taken care of, and the well-being, and working on rehabilitation and everything else that goes into this job. These men and women put their lives on the line each and every day, and I am truly proud to get to wear the same uniform that they do. They do an amazing job for us. I also want to credit not only our commission, but our community. We are blessed. We're a community that each and every day our citizens show us how much they love us, how much they trust us. And that means the world to us, all of us that are standing here. As you guys are well aware, that's not taking place everywhere in our country, but it is certainly taking place here in Brevard County, and we are truly blessed for it. So, Commissioner, thank you for recognizing our team, certainly for Corrections Officer Appreciation Week at the national level. So thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say, I'm sure everybody's going to want to say something too. I thank you so much for all that you do. Truly, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you. We just did National Day of Prayer, but I do pray for all of you to be safe and to have wisdom and to be able to do your job. You are very supported by this commission in this county.
Amen.
Thank you. I don't know if y'all want to grab a photo. It's more than just D2 that BCSO serves, so I think perhaps it would be appropriate to have all the commissioners.
We can spin around and do it if that's permissible.
Does that work, Madam Chair?
If we come in and.
If I can get Junie up.
Do I do it? I don't want to sit. Okay.
Good for the photos that way, it's all right.
He'll move as soon as we start taking pictures.
I don't think we're going to fit.
How about if we stand back here?
However you want to do it.
I'm not standing next to Carter because my basketball.
I'll stand next to Kurt.
Horrible basketball.
Do you want me to take my heels off?
Here, you guys.
Okay, good. Because the taller you are, the more you get to eat.
Nobody wants to see this.
I feel like we're mom and dad right now. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
No, there's Joe. Five hours. Good for you.
All right, we'll go ahead and get rolling on the next one. I believe we have Tracy and Phil with Brevard Family Partnership in attendance. If they want to come on up, they're more than welcome to do so at this point. Good to see you all. All right, so I'll start and read this here. Whereas good mental health is a key component in a child's healthy development, and Children's Mental Health Week provides the opportunity to focus on this important matter while celebrating the accomplishments of children and families affected by mental health concerns. And whereas, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, 1 in 5 children is diagnosed with a mental health condition. And whereas research has shown early identification and appropriate treatment of mental health disorders among children and adolescents provides them with better opportunities to lead full and productive lives. And whereas children and youth with mental health challenges and their families benefit from access to timely services and support that are family-driven, youth-guided, and culturally appropriate, they also benefit from the integration of behavioral health and primary care, education, and child welfare. And whereas it's important that children and adolescents, along with their families and communities, learn about the warning signs of a mental health disorder and where to obtain necessary assistance and treatment. And whereas obtaining a full and accurate diagnosis of a child requires gathering information from diverse sources, including the family, the school, and others involved with the child. Now therefore be it resolved that the Brevard County Board of County Commissioners does hereby designate the week of May 2nd through May 8th, 2021 as Children's Mental Health Awareness Week, done, ordered, and adopted in regular session this 4th day of May 2021. Madam Chair, I'd move to adopt.
I have a motion by Commissioner Lober, second by Commissioner Zonka. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
All right, y'all have the floor. Welcome.
Yes, absolutely.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Phil Scarpelli with Brevard Family
thank you.
Partnership, and Tracy Pellegrino is serving you all with these pins to acknowledge not only that this week is Children's Mental Health Week, but it is this month that it's Mental Health Awareness. And thank you for acknowledging the fact that, mental illness is something that is near and dear to our mission in working with families that are at risk. And quite frankly, the partnership we currently have with Brevard County government in our partnership grant, behavioral health grant, is going to make a major impact in our society moving forward. And it's not just now, it's generational. We want to thank you all for your support and acknowledge the fact that it's not only the assessment, diagnosis and treatment of mental illness, it's also about breaking the stigma. And so we encourage everyone here on the commission and in the community to join us in this mission together. And we thank you again for this honor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is he not doing photos? No?
Oh, we do have one. I apologize. We do have a plaque for you all. No, thanks. No, I appreciate you helping me.
Yeah, I know, it's like, yeah. We're moving into consent agenda. Commissioners, do you have any that you would like pulled? I do have cards on F10, F26, and F29.
Move to approve less those items that you have cards for.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We're going to go to item F10. And this is the American Rescue item. I think Mr. or Miss Terry Smith, I'm sorry, if one of you, someone would come forward. Is Terry Smith here? Come on up. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you very much. Hello, Commissioners. Thank you so much for this opportunity today. My name is Terry Smith, and I'm the Programs Director for HELP's Community Initiatives, HCI, where Hope Thrives. Our President and CEO is Bishop Merton L. Clark. He's also the pastor of Truth Revealed International Ministries, where we've been located for over 25 years in the city of Palm Bay. This year, we had the privilege of hosting the Palm Bay Cold Night Shelter, and we've also extended that invitation again for the coming season in 2021-2022. During this time, though, we have realized that there is a disparity in direct services such as these for both the far north and the far south ends of the counties. That would include Palm Bay. I would like to ask, as you plan and consider how the funds will be distributed, that a more regional and community-based approach to offer direct services to those that are in need are provided. And that you consider, utilizing one of our most unrecognized and underused resources, our community-based organizations, including the faith community. Again, my name is Terry Smith, and I'm from HCI, and we're faith-based, and we're here to serve.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lober. Second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item F26. Ms. Swa, is this you, ma'am?
Legislative intent and permission to advertise an ordinance establishing a non-ad valorem assessment on property located on private and private for-profit and nonprofit hospitals for Medicare managed care in hospital districts.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Peter Carnesal?
I'm sure all of you already know me. It's Pete Carnesal. I live in Vieira. Basically, I have two problems with this particular legislative intent. We're basically, anytime we do an ad valorem or a non-ad valorem assessment, it means that we're charging somebody to do something, okay? And in this particular case, we're creating a fund from Brevard County to manage over a federal program, which basically I don't understand. Okay, the other piece basically is that we are looking at non-ad valorem as opposed to valorem, and usually if we could talk about housing, that's an unfair practice. If we're talking about hospitals, which in this particular case I believe it is, then what we're talking about is charging the hospitals to do something which they will just pass on down in their bills. And not everybody in this Brevard County, and mostly, has 100% coverage. So that means we're passing down part of that expense down to the people that live here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brian Fleming?
Good evening. My name is Brian Fleming. I live in Titusville, and I'm here representing the Libertarian Party of Brevard County. As has already happened, we wanted to see item F26 removed from the consent agenda. This is not a subject that should be placed in a one-vote consent agenda, as the passing of this would constitute another possible tax burden on Brevard County residents. The tax burden that is being placed on Brevard residents is increasing at an unsustainable rate. Recently, this council voted to increase the fire assessment tax by 33%. The state approved a tax on out-of-state internet purchases of 6%. Gas prices have risen over 50 cents in 4 months. Burdening the residents with another tax affect all residents, but especially people with fixed incomes and retirees. While I understand taxes are necessary, this is not considered to be good fiscal policy. If you include the current policies that federal government is imposing, the financial situation for all levels of government is bleak at best. The upcoming rise in inflation due to uncontrolled printing and spending of money will come to bear. Coupled with tax and spend policies of government, all of us will end up broke and unable to maintain a sustainable life in Brevard County. My wish is that you move this out of consent agenda and move this out of consent agenda. I would also like that more information be put on the website concerning ordinances. How can a resident ask valid questions or come up with alternative possibilities if they don't have the necessary information? I know we as a group were talking about this in particular, and it seems like you would have some statistics to back up this before you start putting advertising in the future. As in, who does this affect? I tried to read your ordinance, and I know it's in lawyer speak, which may be good for Commissioner Lober, but for a layman like myself, it's sort of hard to follow. If it says Medicaid, that means federal, as far as I know. So if you guys could put more information out there, so when we come to these meetings, we could actually have a grasp of what the hell is going on, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lober, if you don't mind, we have one more speaker, and I would love for you to go ahead and jump and explain this.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, sir. I have Mr. Nathan Slusher.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Slusher, and I live at 860 Allendale Street in Titusville. I'm here as Director at Large for the Libertarian Party, and we are requesting you pull F26 from consent agenda and deny it from ever moving forward. I had to go get a quick history lesson on this from the Medicaid Managed Care website, and from what I understand from their website, in 2016, they changed their rules for how they accept payments and the state can pay them. And since the creation of the new rule of supplemental payment option, it turned out to be a bad idea and was a financial loss for the care providers such as Health First, Parish, et cetera. Now, the program proposed in the agenda, from my understanding, and I will be happy to get a better understanding when you speak, is that we're requesting to establish a new tax on the citizens to make up the difference that the hospitals are losing in this plan. Now, the residents of Brevard County Unincorporated should not carry the burden of the federal government, and neither should the Brevard County businesses. If the federal government can send us $118 million in stimulus plans, they can fix any mistakes that happen to the Medicaid managed program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lober?
Okay, just first, this is not my item. It was put on by the county manager. I'll tell you, I intend to support it. As far as some of the concerns that were brought up, and I don't mean to be overly critical, but a lot of the questions could have been answered by folks contacting their respective commissioners' offices or the county manager's office prior to the meeting. I think that a lot of the concerns that were expressed by the speakers that just came up, frankly, don't apply with what it is that we're looking to put in place. And I'll, Madam Chair, if you're all right with it, I'll direct a question either to Kathy or to Frank, whoever wants to answer it. Kathy or Frank, is the overwhelming probability that the amount that this would cost directly or indirectly to Brevard County taxpayers, well, let me put it differently. Is it not overwhelmingly probable that either of the individuals that came up to speak, presuming they drove in some kind of a vehicle, electric or combustion engine, that they spent substantially more driving here today in terms of electrical cost or gas cost than this, if this passes, has the likelihood of impacting them, let's say, over the next 30 years? I mean, is this something that you anticipate would cost
Commissioner
anyone
Lober,
$1?
I'm not sure if I could answer that one. County manager.
Commissioner, I think the best way to answer that is this has been requested by the hospital systems for this assessment because there is recent legislation that I believe actually has passed. Actually, I know it has passed, and we anticipate it being signed by the governor, which will then provide us the opportunity, and specifically the hospitals, the opportunity to pay the assessment. It will go to the state, it will go to the federal government, and the federal government will then reimburse. The hospitals would get a significantly higher portion than what they were currently receiving under Medicare. So they have asked us to do this. No taxpayer will be asked to pay anything other than what the hospital is already paying, and then they will be reimbursed at a higher amount than what they are paying by the Medicare system. That's why this is moving forward.
So it's fair to say that this will bring more money into Brevard, namely to the hospital facilities or the hospital systems, but that money is not originating from Brevard?
That's correct.
Perfect, thank you. I'll move to approve.
Thank you, sir. You are a lawyer, sir. Motion by Commissioner Lober. Second by Commissioner Zonka. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes 5-0. Item F29. Yeah. I'm sorry, yes, I have Mr. Peter Cardisol, but, sir, come on up. I think this one's pretty easy, so.
This is the repeal of the Farmington Brevard County Community Development District Ordinance. This is legislative intent to do that. And we'll come back on the 18th.
Yes, basically, in this particular case, it seems as though, when I read through it, that we're taking apart or disbanding a CDD, okay? By removing the ordinance that established it, we're effectively making it disappear. My basic question, being a supervisor of a CDD, is where do the assets of this CDD go when we disassemble it?
Mr. Cursor, I might jump in and do a Commissioner Lober here on you. This is one that they're dissolving because they did something different. They're trying to start a new development. But you are welcome to call my office anytime with stuff like this, and I will give you all the information I have so that you can feel comfortable with the things that come through with that, especially in my district. I know all the other commissioners will do that as well.
Okay. But like I said, this one I believe is down near Mims. It's nowhere near where I am.
It's up in by the Scottsmore area. But
Okay.
again, it's just because they're doing something different, and they've already kind of did something different. So it's really a good thing.
I have a hard time saying that disbanding of a governmental entity is good versus bad depending upon what's happening to the assets.
Right.
And
So if you, there really wasn't any assets yet. So if you want to call my office, I'd be glad to fill you in on all this, unless you guys have any discussions that you'd like to do at this time. Commissioner Zonk, is that a new light?
No.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Can I have a motion on this item? Motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Zonka. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. And Commissioner Lober, you had a really good point. If people just would get a hold of us, we'd be glad to give you information, and that way you're not having to do a lot of these things in public. We're all pretty good about that.
Yes, ma'am.
We are moving now into public comments, and I have one. Ms. Sandra Sullivan. Ma'am, if you would just give it out up here, we'll hand it out.
Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores. So I have some good news. I got an email yesterday from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Federal that regarding our concerns about the Patrick Air Force Base South Base housing, that they have found that Patrick did not do what they were supposed to do with what's called a Section 7 consult under the Endangered and Threatened Species Act. This has to do with our concerns with the sea turtles. So that's great, because that means that can be followed up on. I also wanted to thank the commission and 30 years of commissioners. This is the policy that is on the Unicode from 1985, where in response to sea level rise and hurricanes, you were concerned about the movement of the dunes and the natural renourishment. You had some very great policies that you put the development further off. I just want to mention one thing quick about the sea turtles. The state, this is lighting, we're in sea turtle season, so we want to be concerned about the lights on the beach. The state has come out with its new sea turtle ordinance lighting and I would encourage the county to look at that to adopt. And then this is South Patrick Shores, and this is what your policy looks like in action. Isn't that beautiful? So what you can see is a lot of greenery, and that's protecting the dune. And then these two, you can see the dune renourishing on itself. So excellent job. And then FEMA just updated its maps, and you can see from that we're not a flood zone along A1A, and you have this in front of you. But down in Satellite Beach, they're very much a flood zone along A1A, okay? And why is that? Because unlike the county, when you walk along Satellite Beach, it's all seawalls and hardening of the coastline. Surprising, the whole city. So the beaches are very eroded. They don't naturally regenerate, and they're very susceptible in a hurricane. And now you see in the FEMA map, that makes the coastline very susceptible. So I'm going to ask this county commission to consider the idea of a coastal, and there's actually Virginia Barker that put this in writing regarding our concerns about the preserve, that you put into effect an ordinance and work out interlocal agreements with the other municipalities to end it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to give Ms. Sullivan an extra 45 seconds to finish her thoughts.
You have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Opposed? Passes. No, sorry. It passes 4-1. Commissioner Tobias in opposition. Ma'am.
Thank you. As you know, the state has prioritized $1 billion in funding for resiliency, and so 30 years ago, the same conversations are today. And as we saw in the mid 2000s, we had those hurricanes and a lot of damage. So what happened is city built with even bigger buildings, more density, closer to the ocean, exacerbating the problem. That's why we need, I believe, a countywide ordinance to protect our coastline. And also, one other thing related is there is a hurricane deficiency right now from your own reports. And with the census data coming out, we need a new updated report, because not only does this cause property damage, but it endangers the lives of the residents on the barrier island, because the county and the Eastern Central Regional Planning Council had to determine that there is a deficiency to get everybody off the barrier island in the event of a hurricane that's fast moving. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We're moving into item H1.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is a petition to vacate public utility easement for 946 and 948 Pecan Circle in Barefoot Bay. It's to allow a single-family home to be built between two lots. There's no concerns from a flooding perspective or utilities.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Tabaya? Did you want to make a motion?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Tabaya, second by Commissioner Lober. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item H2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the alcohol ordinance. Nothing has changed since March 23rd. The board voted unanimously at that time to move forward with the ordinance. Since our last meeting, I have not yet received any peer-reviewed data indicating that people leaving bars and endangering children at bus stops in those jurisdictions that do not have these time restrictions at a higher rate than those jurisdictions that do. As such, I move to approve, Madam Chair.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. I have one card, Mr. Nathan Slusher.
Nathan Slusher, 860 Allendale Street in Titusville. In wine, there is wisdom. In beer, there is freedom. And in water, there's bacteria. Benjamin Franklin. As you move to vote on the finalization of the removal of this legislation, we have called to question the safety of this decision. In this county, where we push the limits to the final frontier, we set the precedents for those both far and those who are near. Do we limit ourselves and our future generations, or do we dare to be the ones to finally end this conversation? Do we take the time to correct authoritative ordinance creations? Do we remove the laws causing vendors frustrations? Do we stand up and encourage economic stimulation? At this moment, you are setting the foundation of freedom and liberty during these times of exploration. The colonies we build on the moon and on Mars will replicate our governments at home, here, in their own backyard. Will you hold to American principles of life, liberty, happiness, truth, and justice for all? Or in your decision for what tomorrow holds, will you fall? Fear not of us making the first leap around, for Brevard is made of leaders who will boldly launch off the ground. The time has come to make the choice. Will we hold on to the past, or will freedom rejoice?
Thank you, sir. I'm pretty impressed you made all that rhyme. I was going to do one myself here, but I thought I would leave that to Commissioner Lober.
I'm not even going to try to rhyme.
Okay.
I'm just not going to do that.
Thank you.
A couple things. So first, obviously, we're restricted in what we can communicate outside of meetings based on sunshine. Yes, there are workarounds and exceptions sometimes, but I thought this would best be discussed at a meeting. First, again, to sort of remind folks in terms of what my counter proposal was that gets us in the direction of I think where a lot of folks are looking to go. Whereas our current policy precludes folks from selling alcohol after 2 a.m. in the morning, what I proposed the last time this was before the BOCC was to extend that to 4:30 from 2 o'clock every day except Friday nights and Saturday nights, where we'd allow it basically to be a free-for-all, for want of a better term, to essentially allow the folks that want to get drunk or to drink at peculiar hours to do so to respect their freedom to the greatest possible extent without endangering anyone on the roads. What I will tell you is I had some folks in my office, particularly Rocket, research this issue for me. The closest, most analogous situation that she was able to find was a Cape Coral ordinance that extended the hours from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., so not all the way to make it coincide with school bus traffic or children being taken to school, but it extended in Cape Coral the hours of sale from 2 to 4 for a year as a pilot study, and they found that DUIs, and to my understanding as well, various infractions did in fact go up. The fact of the matter, though, and interestingly, is they did decide to keep the extended hours, but my understanding is they limited the locations in which they took place, namely to place them in certain commercial districts. The other thing that's worthy of note is that LEO costs, so law enforcement costs, apparently went up as well due to an increase in stops. I'm not sure that they were all criminal in nature. They may have been civil as well. But the fact is, I think that a safe middle ground is to put us from 2 to 4:30, except Fridays and Saturdays, to extend it those nights, again, into the following day without limitation. And then we can do what Cape Coral did, treat it as a pilot program, see how it goes. If we're not having the issues that they experienced, we can certainly look at expanding it at that point. If we are having those issues, then we will have essentially done something to limit the impact and the fallout, and hopefully preclude kids from getting injured or, God forbid, killed as a result of something that we want to do as a trial. So that's what I would suggest. I would certainly support that. If there's something close to it, I would support that as well. But in an abundance of caution, I'm not inclined to support the full measure at this point of going and just totally obliterating that 2 a.m. requirement.
Okay, sir. Commissioner Tobias?
This is, at best, anecdotal. This is not peer-reviewed data. How these two jurisdictions are even compared based on the myriad of factors that brought forth really have no bearing to this whatsoever. I appreciate Commissioner Lober trying to find an answer to a problem that really didn't exist until he brought it up prior. So, lacking any data to support this, I would like to move forward with the motion that is currently on the table.
Okay, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm kind of at a disadvantage because I don't drink at bars and I don't drink at home. So for me, I just look at this as a market-driven thing. And I just don't see that it makes a whole lot of difference if a bar is open till 2 or 4 or 4:30, or because as a business owner, you're going to keep the bar open or your toy store open or your recreational warehouse store open. You're going to keep it open when you can get business in the door. Simple as that. And if you can get business in the door at 6 in the morning, you're going to open at 6 in the morning. That doesn't likely happen in most cases, so people normally open their businesses between 8 and 9. And they typically close between 5 in the afternoon and 10 at night. Drinking establishments are certainly different because of the social aspect. And I can remember in my youth, you used to go out at 10 o'clock at night. So, but now I'm usually in bed by 10 o'clock at night, so things change. So that's why I say I really can't say that this is good or bad. I just don't see that there's a need to do it, but I don't see any harm to do it either. And if Commissioner Tobias thinks it's a worthwhile issue, then I'll support it.
Okay, I'm going to support it as well, but Commissioner Lober, if you keep track on this and we find there's any increased statistics, I will support you if you bring something back to start limiting times again.
Understood. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Passes 4-1 with Commissioner Lober an objection. We're going to move into item J1.
Good evening again, Commissioners. So this is seeking approval for the contract for sale and purchase from Bruce and Luis Whipple for 511 Hollywood Boulevard, located in District 3. We're requesting the board approve and authorize the chair to execute the attached contract and sale for purchase and authorize the reimbursement of appraisal fees in the amount of $500. As you know, Hollywood Boulevard is currently in design, and we are looking when there is an opportunity to purchase homes at a much cheaper cost so that we don't have to get into condemning them later. And so here we have a resident who has an appraisal, and we're looking to pay the appraised price.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Tabaya?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this widening project will greatly impact Districts 3 and 5. So I think this is wise to move forward now instead of eminent domain in the future. So I certainly support this action, Madam Chair.
Okay, and Commissioner Zonka, you good as well?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item J2.
Madam, as Mr. Kranis is getting set up, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion with respect to item J2 to approve the amount of $26,500 out of the $67,500 requested, with the condition that it not be paid until the show actually take place and the Blue Angels actually fly. I do not contemplate that requirement applying if weather ends up forcing cancellation, though.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay, Commissioner Zonka.
I'll wait till everybody's done speaking.
I don't
Until
have
we get
any
the
more lights,
introduction
ma'am.
from Peter.
Okay, introduction, Mr. Kranis.
Oh, yes, this is a TDC grant seeking approval for $67,500 for the Melbourne Air Show on the 15th and 16th of May.
Thank you,
Happy to
sir.
answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Zonka. Commissioner Zonka, your light's on?
Yes. I reviewed the TDC meeting. I reviewed the 5-page memo from Commissioner Lober. And, if we wanted to get into a big discussion about who's more deserving, what's a fair process, we can do that. I can just say that although I didn't support the TDC blindly giving $100,000 without even a reason to why other than live streaming, I don't know how we tell Melbourne no when they've asked, because that's what's fair. Now, you can argue the merits, and I can go through each point of this 5-page memo on all the reasons why Commissioner Lober believes they don't deserve the money, which is almost absurd, to say the least. I don't know that we want to go there. I guess it's up to the board. I'm sure Commissioner Lober will have a lot to say about it. However, we can have that discussion. But I wouldn't have supported this had the vote been different for the other air show, because I don't think that this was a good use of funds when we have cultural grant applicants that we require strict financial information from in order to qualify for these grants, and we're just giving money to promoters. And so I'm not comfortable with that. So I would just ask, and hopefully in the future, the TDC will, work on a policy vetting process, that sort of thing, that, that there's just a better process in place, rather than a commissioner bringing an item to the TDC for approval of a large sum of money for a big event. I would much rather see us have a policy in place for those kinds of events that can be vetted through the commission as well, that we're comfortable with.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to add that the TDC did give staff direction to develop a process and basically guidelines for these major events. So that's something we will be working on.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Commissioner Lower, right before you speak, I think we have to get all those things into primer as well. I don't necessarily agree with all the data they sent out. So Commissioner Lower, you made a lot of great points first time out. The reason that I think I'm going to support this tonight is because everybody's been kind of trapped inside, and I think this is going to be another one of those things that's going to really boost our constituents in a way that I think is very important right now. So I am going to support this, and then maybe when we come around to next year, we can tighten our belts. Oh, that's not a good word up here, especially during COVID, right? But we take another look at what we're going to be doing with parameters. Commissioner Lober, sir.
All right, this is going to be a little different than my normal pitch. At least I think so. I would encourage you, and just as Commissioner Tabaya has done so in motions that he's indicated or items that he's indicated he's not going to support regardless, and I've tried to incorporate some of the items that he's requested in items knowing that, or in agenda items that I know in advance he's not going to support even if I take his suggestion. So this is sort of one of those approaches here that I don't typically do. If you are going to go ahead and allocate the 67.5, I'm not going to waste time, everyone sitting here in the audience, staff, all of us up here, going over it. It sounds like everyone's looked at the memo, at least everyone that has chosen to do so. What I will say, though, is you've touched on the points as far as not agreeing with everything that was sent in. As far as absurdity, when we have a detailed economic impact study that's retrospective that shows $1.27 million, including non-tourism impact, from a substantially similar show. I don't want to say substantially identical, but substantially similar from a recent show, to suggest there's going to be a $12 million economic impact is ludicrous. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. This wasn't something that was included when it came before the TDC, but even the staff report indicates that staff believes they're going to have an economic impact of $1.5 million. Okay, from 1.27, which is what I was basing it on in 2019, maybe that's CPI. I could see 1.5. That's, I certainly trust staff in that number. I didn't coerce them or suggest to them that they even run the numbers, but they've done that of their own volition. Wonderful. I would suggest including a couple of different items should you choose to believe the 12 million is something that's even possible, which to me is a stretch. Again, I would suggest that whatever you award them, whether it's 67.5 or any other number, that it be contingent on the show actually taking place and the Blue Angels flying. The other thing I would suggest is that you also do it contingent upon them demonstrating that level of economic impact. If they demonstrate, let's say, a $6 million economic impact after the fact, maybe instead of cutting what is awarded in full, you cut it in half to make it as a percentage of what it is that they demonstrate. I think that's something that at least would serve to limit what we put out there. The TDT has taken a hit over 2020, and the fact is there are folks on the TDT who have proposed that we not grant any money to the lagoon whatsoever this year, or allocate any money in the budgeting process to the lagoon because we're hurting so badly. So if we have an entity with whom we've never done business that wants us to trust them, this is a way to give them the benefit of every doubt, even if it's an extremely strong doubt, to allow them to prove us, or to prove me wrong in this case, by demonstrating that $12 million impact. I would love to be wrong in this one. I just don't think, and based upon what I see from staff doesn't think either that they're even in the ballpark. So again, my two suggestions would be to make it contingent, again, notwithstanding weather, on the air show actually taking place and the Blue Angels actually flying, and also contingent upon them demonstrating a $12 million impact. And if they demonstrate less than that, I would suggest that you authorize staff to adjust proportionately what it is out of the 67.5 or whatever number it is that you all choose to award.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Tabaya?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I voted against the $100,000 appropriation for the Cocoa Beach. I will be voting for this one, and that appears a little bit of an inconsistency. But I think that this door has been opened, and that the same parameters that we offer one event, we certainly should offer the same. I would have been comfortable with a different number, but going with the wisdom of other folks in the TDC, I'm going to support the 67.5. Madam Chair, may I ask, Mr. Krennis, can you explain the difference between the funds being transferred to the Cocoa Beach folks versus the Melbourne, as far as would the same parameters be in place as Commissioner Lober cited? If Cocoa Beach wouldn't have happened, would they have received the $100,000? Would there be anything different than the parameters set forth in the previous agreement?
The contract for the Cocoa Beach show was written in such a way that they were able to get their money in advance of the show occurring. So in this case, we would have to either do a clawback clause or do it on reimbursement if the commission so chose.
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time? So Cocoa Beach got the money prior to the event?
Correct, yes, sir.
And if we were to vote for this now, Melbourne would receive the money prior or post?
Right now, the way it was stated, it would be prior.
Okay. So in other words, it would be the exact same that the money was allocated, other than the fact that this went through a subcommittee as well as the regular TDC. So it went through more steps than the Melbourne one.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lober.
Just very briefly, Mr. Kranis, to your understanding, the individual or entity that put on the Cocoa Beach Air Show, have we not had a number of years of dealings with that individual in which he has essentially met or exceeded the stated economic impact at substantially all, if not all, of those events?
Yes, sir, that's true. We had a very strong relationship with the event promoter. In fact, he's the same promoter that conducted the air shows at the Melbourne Airport in 18 and 19 and received grants from us as well.
From your perspective, based on your years in the tourism industry, do you believe that it's realistic to expect a $12 million estimated economic impact with respect to the show put on by someone with whom we've had no prior dealings?
No, sir. I did the math on it, and I came up with the 1.5 million. I pretty much stick by that unless there's some significant shift. I mean, they've put a cap on the gate of 10,000 per day, so that kind of limits their upside potential. So I think 1.5 million is probably realistic.
And with respect to this, this is a show that's going to be hosted, Mr. Kranis, if you confirm this, at the Melbourne International Airport?
Yes, sir.
So it's not a beachside location?
Correct.
Do you believe that there will be a lessened turnout as a result of the location compared to, let's say, if this were at Melbourne Beach?
Yeah, I mean, they're estimating 20,000 plus, I would say, maybe another 50% beyond that outside of the gate. But that would be substantially below where the Cocoa Beach show was, which I think is probably going to be in excess of 40,000 when we finally get the numbers.
So as a final question, you'd say it's fair then that this is not an apples-to-apples comparison, especially given the fact that the airport is getting 20% of the profits, as I understand it?
I'm not aware of that, but it is a substantially different show in that it's a gated show. It's a ticketed show, so you have to purchase a ticket to get on property, to get into the viewing area. Typically with those types of shows, you do have some people, watching from the 2 to 3 mile radius outside of that, but it wouldn't generate the same kind of attendance as a beach show would.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Zonka?
Yeah, do we have a post-show Cocoa Beach Air Show review?
We will, yes, ma'am. We don't have those numbers yet. It
Okay.
takes usually 6 to 8 weeks before we get the actual data from the cellular company that we work with.
Okay, and Cocoa Beach Air Show, they did charge for some specialty VIP tickets and preferential seating and all that other stuff, correct?
Yeah, they
For
had
VIP packages?
They had some VIP packages, yes, ma'am.
Which are actually quite expensive. And I guess I think another point that I want to make, I know that in the memo and the promoter had touted, being a nonprofit, that sort of thing, but in actuality, there's 2 entities, correct? There's a 501c3 and then there's Lilly Productions. And not all monies through the air show go through the nonprofit. And, if commission's interested, because, since this issue got to be such a big deal before it even came to us, IRS only has available the $990 from 2017, and this nonprofit donated no money to any agency at all. The only monies that were given were to the owner or the organizer board president, and that was a salary of, I think, over $80,000. And digging back further years, it was the same case. The other 2 board members, Jerry Sanson and another board member, didn't get anything, but lots of listings, but no nonprofits, no money given to any charities at all. Again, I don't have anything beyond 2017, so I don't know if that's ever been a claim, but I'm just curious because that's something that's bragged upon as part of, we're a 501, we're a nonprofit, we're doing this, but the promoter's still making money. And I don't even fault him for that, but I just don't want this false perception that that this is all for charity and this is all for the good of the people. You know, I do take issue with that only because I think it's a gross misrepresentation of what agencies got, what money's funneling through what. And, you know, and for what it's worth, you know, we can talk about, I guess, what show is going to be better, but they're direct competitors. They are. And I know this promoter that did the Cocoa Beach show had actually signed a contract with Melbourne to do their 2019 show, but then went back to their city council asking for money. And the council sent him back to the Melbourne Airport Authority, and the Melbourne Airport Authority said no. So they had to cancel his contract. So there's some bad blood there, or at least there's some history there that a lot of people may not know about. But after speaking with a council member today, you know, I had questions about what happened in 2019. So again, I don't want to be in the business of helping one and not helping the other, and I don't want to say who's better and who isn't. I mean, this agency, you can fault them for being from California, but they've done shows all over the place, and they've done over 1,000 of them. So they're not professionals. And having the Blue Angels here is a big deal. So I would hope that we could support this air show just as we all should, and not, these aren't apples to apples, but we gave $100,000 to a promoter that was basically rushed through the TDC without vetting. No real explanation as to what it was for, except live streaming, which $100,000 for live streaming is just mind-blowing to me. And that would be a free service that we provided, or that the promoter provided for people to watch live, that those are people that aren't here committing to our tourism dollars. So again, I don't think these are apples to apples, but I don't think we should have given out the $100,000 without accountability to begin with. So with that said, I mean, I'm not going to pick apart, you know, other points to be made, but, you know, I was sort of pushed into looking further and further and asking more questions just because this became a much bigger issue than it needed to be, and we probably should never be in the business of helping competitors, financing competitors, you know, for doing their shows. So I hope they have a good show. I'm thrilled that Cocoa Beach had a great air show, but I don't want to get caught up in helping one competitor and not the other.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, sir.
Am I on? Yeah, I am. Mr. Cranes, do we have any reason to suspect that there's a risk in giving money up front to these folks?
No, sir, I don't believe so.
Because, you know, I just find it odd that it was brought up that that's a quote warning sign that if we give them money up front, that we're never going to see it again, we're not going to have an air show, and Blue Angels aren't going to show up. So I just wanted to get that out there. You had mentioned, and somebody else mentioned, ocean traffic, watching people on the ocean. Well, I can tell you in years past when we've had air shows in Melbourne, there's an awful lot of boats out in that river. And I can tell you that I know an awful lot of boaters and jet skiers that are always looking for some place to go with their boat, someplace cool, someplace different. And it's party central out there on that river when those planes are taking off. And again, referencing Blue Angels, they're a big draw. They're known all over the country, as is the Thunderbirds. You know, so you're going to have an awful lot of interest. So I will be real interested to see what kind of numbers that they put up versus Coco with the Thunderbirds. I was going to call them T-Birds, but the Thunderbirds. I'd be real interested to see what the differences are and the different monies that are spent and the promotions that are done by each. And I'll depend on you for that because you pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we'll provide a report.
But I'm going to support it. I don't see any reason not to, and I look forward to it. I think it'll be great for the community.
Okay, Commissioner Lober, I'm going to call this one card, and then it's your turn.
Sure.
Okay, I have Mr. Cliff Graham.
Good evening, Commissioners. I had a prepared statement that I was going to read. But in lieu of that, I mean, hearing the discussion, I really think that, you know, everyone here has it right. Definitely, you know, the airport really appreciates your support. We're going to have a great air show. coming out of COVID, coming out of this pandemic, everyone's looking for, community events like this to happen. One of the things that I did want to say is our objectives have always been, number one, to provide a special and remarkable event for our community, and that includes a great demonstration team, which we have with the Blue Angels. Number two, we wanted to showcase our airport's unique capabilities and qualities, and number three, we wanted to use this event as a tourism tool and promote the air show as a destination event. We believe number three to be especially important as we work to play a role in the recovery of one of our economic pillars, and that, of course, is tourism. So it is true that the air show network is new to Brevard County, and they're new to our airport. We've been working with them, however, for about a year and a half, and they were selected through a competitive RFP process. And as was stated, they're a very professional company. They've put on over 1,000 air shows in 40 states and I believe 4 provinces in Canada. And we have a great lineup, not just the Blue Angels, but we have F-16s and F-18s and P-51s, and I believe we have a Corsair. So we're going to have a first-class air show. We're happy to bring it back, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Did you say P-51s?
Yeah, P-51 Mustang.
Holy cow, that's some old, those things are older than I am.
Yes, they are.
No way.
Yeah, really.
Commissioner Lober.
Just a few questions for Peter, if I may. We heard Commissioner Smith talk about whether or not there was a risk up front. You may recall, well, let me phrase it as a question. Do you recall during the TDC meeting this past week when I expressed concern over whether or not they'd obtained a waiver from the FAA in order to permit the team to fly in the reduced aerobatic box?
Yes, sir.
And you recall, or do you recall during that conversation, during that presentation, that I mentioned the same month, so we're talking this last month, that the FAA, in their communications to me, described the situation as a, quote, issue?
Yes, sir.
What you don't recall, because frankly this occurred after the TDC meeting, is I followed up after Mr. Graham had stated that they have everything in place or that they actually have the waiver. That's not the impression that I got in a 15 or 20-minute phone conversation with the FAA the same day. What I was told is they're well on their way. I was told that the application or the waiver, at least in the opinion or the understanding of the individual with whom I spoke out of Orlando, was that it required waiving the height above ground level to 500 feet, that's something that involved an application package in Washington in addition to locally, and that although they anticipated that it's probable that they will get that, it's not a guarantee. Obviously, you couldn't have been aware of that because that conversation did not take place until after the TDC meeting, that evening actually after hours, which was shocking for a federal worker to give me a call after he's off the clock. We heard as well, among some misstatements, that live streaming was the only reason that we awarded the money to the Cocoa Beach show. I don't think I need to go and rehash every reason that we did that unless someone wants me to, in which case I'll be happy to do that. But from your perspective, what is the value that Brevard County gains from encouraging an event to be live streamed in the fashion that it was for the Cocoa Beach Air Show?
I mean, the live streaming does provide some free advertising, if you will, about the destination. So, you know, it's certainly wasn't the main reason why we selected them or went that direction, but it's a good reason to say that we get some exposure from that.
Okay. And as far as Mr. Lilly's financials, frankly, that's something I'd never even heard intimated until we were at the meeting, although a memo certainly could have gone out beforehand instead of ambushing folks during the meeting. I don't know if he's been divorced before. I don't know if he defaulted on a loan in college, but I do know that he's produced shows and that he's delivered at least everything that he's promised over a long history in this county. And hearing folks voting for an item when they essentially shot down a surer thing in the past for funding, it causes me to question what the differences are with respect to the shows over and above those that were already identified. To your understanding, Mr. Kranis, did Mr. Lilly, his production company, or anyone affiliated with him give away any significant value worth of tickets to the employer of any of the commissioners or any of the county staff?
I would have no knowledge of that, sir.
To your knowledge, based upon the slideshow that was presented this past week at the TDC meeting, namely the slides indicating what they were doing for the community, that the proposal that we're now being asked to consider involved a $50,000 allocation of free general admission tickets to the direct employer of one of the commissioners up here?
My understanding is they're giving 1,000 tickets on the Sunday of the event to healthcare workers. I'm not 100% sure. I recall.
But not
exactly.
healthcare workers at Parish or Woodstock, just at Health First?
I'm sorry, sir. I don't know for sure.
If Mr. Graham wants to clarify that, I'll certainly invite him to do so. But I think if we're going to start attacking people without them having the ability to be here to defend themselves, we can go in that direction, but I just don't know that it's productive. So I'll leave it at that. It sounds like this is going to pass, Madam Chair. Again, I've expressed my concern with respect to the risk to the county, with the risk of the Blue Angels not flying. I never said that they're not going to show up. If the FAA says you don't have permission to fly, they're not going to fly. Again, there's no downside. We know that the ROI for this event is zero because it certainly will take place regardless of whether we allocate a penny. But if we want to assume the risk, certainly go ahead and don't make it contingent. But I think there is a tremendous risk that we're taking. I hope that they go ahead and get their waiver, and I hope that it's successful. But again, there is a definite risk there because, as I stated, despite the statement made by Mr. Graham at the TDC meeting, and I don't recall verbatim what it was, but something to the effect of they have their waiver. And when I asked, well, based upon my conversation or my communications with the FAA the same month, when he communicated with them, I was essentially told, since you have or subsequent to your communication. So again, I just very much question the veracity of a lot of things that we're told, especially from an entity that stands to make 20% of the profits here.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Zonka, you're going to, and then we're going to call the question, but I just want to mention the Cocoa Beach Air Show was great. I think you're probably right. The stats are probably, we don't know. We haven't had that yet. I think moving forward, if we do this, I would like to do it that they all do the shows or we do a clawback. So I think that's just probably pretty smart. But what I like about this too is we did it with Cocoa. We said we're going to do it with Melbourne. It's a little bit equitable that way for all the districts, for the community. So I kind of like it. I like your shows too. So Commissioner Zonka, you're up, and then I'm going to call the question.
Yes, Mr. Kranis, since you're on the hot seat. True that the old promoter who we gave $100,000 to that he needed so badly 3 weeks before the air show, do you believe he still would have done the air show without our support?
Most likely.
Okay, because that was also criticized in the memo, so I just wanted to bring that up over and over again, actually. And can I ask, Chairwoman, can I ask Liv?
Well, certainly.
Can I ask you, have you come up?
Oh.
I'm sorry, we haven't met before.
We actually
I didn't mean
have, we have over Zoom.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right,
yeah.
that's right, that's right. Anyway, I don't mean to put you on the
No,
spot,
that's
but
fine.
do we
That's why I'm
have
here.
all the FAA clearances or variances?
It's a very good question. So what we do have is, we're in the process of getting all the FAA clearances, which is a completely normal situation for air shows. What we do have is the FAA, the U.S. Navy Blue Angels, the Air Show Network, and the airport working collectively on the waivers and the aerobatic box, and all signs are that it's favorable. And it's completely normal not to have the waiver at this point.
Okay, because this is probably a silly question, but they wouldn't allow the Blue Angels to
That's
fly
correct.
if it wasn't
That's
safe.
correct. And the Blue Angels would not be planning on coming if they did not think we would get a waiver or an approved aerobatic box. You're
Okay.
absolutely right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Mr. Graham.
I'm not done. I'm
Oh,
not
I
done, if
apologize.
you don't mind. Mr. Kranis, do we have an estimate on the economic impact to the beaches from this Melbourne event? I mean, since
The
we took an
original-
estimate on the Melbourne, I'm just curious
Sure.
if we have.
Yes, ma'am. The original estimate was 4.4 million. Obviously, now we'll go back, and once we get all the data, we'll crunch the numbers and see if they achieved that or not.
What about the Melbourne, though? I imagine that some people will travel to Cocoa Beach or be close to the beach for the Melbourne Air Show as well, or to the beach. We'll
Yeah,
stay
I mean,
on
I
the beach.
think certainly anytime you have a big event like that, people are going to be staying at hotel properties all up and down the coast as well as on the beach as well.
Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions. I just want to comment, since Commissioner Lober brought it up. It wasn't a criticism to the promoters' financials. It was more the stage that was laid about being a 501c3 and helping the community. and when clearly they don't donate, or at least they haven't up until 2017. And as far as, and maybe this is a question for Cliff, sorry, Cliff, have I been in communication at all with the airport, with the air show, with your board, or anything to do with the air show, or do I have any
No.
influence over you guys?
No.
Okay, because I don't know the promoter, I've never spoken to him either, and I'm not sure why they decided to give frontline workers 1,000 tickets. Health First happens to be the biggest employer in the county, and I did not get free tickets, and because they want to honor our frontline heroes, God love them,
They did it because they're new to the community, and they thought it was something good to do.
something generous to do, and I
Yes.
think
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
awesome. But
Thank you.
they weren't offered to me, and I wouldn't have taken them anyway, and there was definitely no conflict because we had our county attorney check that out. Because we knew it would be an issue when this item came up, because it always gets personal when we're trying to talk about certain things. So that's all. That's all I have, Commissioner.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Lober, if you'd like to ask him a question, I'm going to
Sure, and
call
I'll
it.
leave Mr. Graham alone. I don't want to pick on him here. So if you want to go ahead and take a seat, you're certainly welcome to, sir. I do want to point out a couple things. I agree 100% with something that Mr. Graham stated, that the FAA will not allow them to fly if it's not safe. I agree. That's exactly what the concern is. I'm not saying it's even more likely than not that they won't be allowed to fly. What Mr. Graham stated at the TDC meeting, and you guys can play the video back just as easily as I can, was that they have the waivers or they have the clearance necessary. I said I questioned the veracity. The very next or two statements out of his mouth after that were, oh, well, we're in the process of getting clearances. Either he was lying then or he's lying now. I tend to believe what he's saying now because that matches what I was told by the FAA. But had I not followed up with the FAA to verify what he was saying to us at the TDC meeting, which was apparently a good thing to do because he acknowledged at this point that was not true, we wouldn't even know that. That was something that wasn't volunteered. So over and above the misleading $12 million estimated economic impact that, again, you don't have to believe me on, but if you don't believe me, then you're not believing staff either on that. That's an incredible exaggeration at best. I think it's dishonest and misleading. Now we hear they do not have the waivers that they told the TDC prior to the TDC voting to approve this that they have. So, do what you will, but I think I've made my concerns clear and the reason for them.
Thank you, sir. I think we have a motion and a second. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Passes 4-1 with Commissioner Lober in opposition. Thank you, Mr. Kranis. We are moving to item J3.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, this is a request to adopt an interlocal agreement between the City of Melbourne, Old O'Galley, Riverfront Community Redevelopment Agency, and Brevard County. There's several provisions within this interlocal agreement that will change some of the things that the CRA does. It will limit the CRA to the ability to issue debt or contract for services beyond 12 months, except for debt for the sole project of the public parking garage in downtown O'Galley. The public parking garage will not exceed $6.8 million, less the funding that's within the trust fund, which is about $583,000. The debt must be tax exempt. The parking garage must be open to the public for a period of 50 years. There shall be no parking charge to the public, and 90% of the spaces must be reserved for the public. The limit on CRA administrative costs and any unspent tax increment funds, if the CRA gets extended to September 30, 2038, will be used to either buy down the debt or return the money to the taxing districts for the end of each fiscal year. If the city and the CRA are able to satisfy the debt before the September 30, 2038 debt time period, that the debt will be retired and the CRA will be terminated before September 30, 2038.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Tabaya.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I certainly want to thank staff as well as the City of Melbourne for putting a close on the final CRA, the agreement here, and it's nice in such a way that we'll be providing parking at no cost. I wish Cocoa Beach would have come to this sort of resolution with the county. Unfortunately, they're still bilking taxpayers not only through the CRA but through a revenue source of more than $500,000 every year. So thank you for Melbourne for not sticking it to its residents in the same way that Cocoa Beach continues to do so.
Are you making a motion to approve, sir?
Yes, Madam Chair, sorry.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner DeBaya, second by Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Lober?
Just a real quick question. With respect to this, I just want to make sure I'm completely on the same page with where the CRA, not this particular property we're talking about, but the CRA itself falls as far as the district offices. Is this a D4 and D5 CRA? Because I know that D3 was essentially taking the lead and dealing with Melbourne, but I just was not clear on the boundaries down there because they're so far from D2.
It's kind of your split, right? Yeah. So Commissioner DeBaya and Zonka?
Okay, yeah, if you're both fine with it, since it's in your two districts, I'll support it too. I want to make sure that I give folks their due if it falls in their
Okay.
area.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving to item J4.
And as Mr. Denningoff's getting set up, I'll go ahead and move to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. I have a second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Denninghoff.
Excellent job, sir.
Commissioner Tabaya had a bet on how
Very-
long it would
very
take you to get to the
illuminating.
front. All right, we are moving into board reports. County manager.
I have no report.
No. I have Ms. Bentley.
No report.
Commissioner Lober.
Had a probably 2+ hours sit down with Courtney Barker, Mindy Gibson, and then the lobbyist for Satellite Beach down in Satellite Beach. It was actually partly a road trip to go and look at a couple parks, Hightower and Pelican as well. I'll tell you that, thank you. I'll tell you that, appreciate it, Kurt. With respect to some of the ongoing discussions that I presume are taking place, but I don't know, between Commissioner Smith and the folks at Satellite Beach, the direction from my end that I gave the folks at Satellite Beach in terms of my willingness or my comfort level would be essentially that if they want to have the county provide some additional revenue or resources to improve one or more parks in that particular city, that I would not be comfortable, or I would not incline to be supportive of them coming out of either the county as a whole, namely the general fund, or alternatively out of anything that directly comes from D2. My view is, my sort of doctrine, if you will, is if it's something that occurs solely in one district and disproportionately impacts that district, I try to defer. But my concern with this is that when we're talking about something that's precedent setting, I just want to make sure, because we're in the process in D2 at least of looking at options to hand over Cherry Down Park to Cape Canaveral. I don't know whether it'll happen or not, but Lori Wilson, there have been discussions with Cocoa Beach on what would even hypothetically need to take place to turn over Lori Wilson to them. And I can tell you that it's very concerning to me, not specific to Satellite Beach, but to any municipality where we have folks that come from outside of that municipality using it, that we somehow disadvantage them or obligate them to pay more in order to access that park. Certainly folks in certain cities want things maintained at different standards. Just as, Madam Chair, there probably is more tolerance in unincorporated D1 on the far north end where it's rural to having 9-inch grass as opposed to in more suburban D4 in Vieira to having 9-inch high grass. I think people have different expectations, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think the expectations within Satellite Beach are probably closer akin to what they have in Vieira, in the sense that they don't want things that are oxidized, that are looking rough. They don't really necessarily look for that, but what I had expressed to them that would be okay for me, and I'm just putting this out there largely for Commissioner Smith's benefit, for future negotiations. If Commissioner Smith believes that it's in his district's interest to prioritize adding resources to one or more parks that are either subleased or leased to a municipality, or that have a municipality managing them, regardless of actual ownership. If Commissioner Smith is inclined to take some of the D4 parks money and use it in a municipal park or a park managed by a municipality that's a county park, that's his decision, and I certainly will support whatever direction he wants to go with that. But with respect to however it's contracted, I would just want to make sure it's tied to the district, given that we're redistricting, and now, frankly, I don't know if Satellite Beach will be in my district. I really don't know. It could be, and maybe it's not. I would not want to put money or anything else of value on that equation because I don't know how it's going to pan out. But I just wanted to put it out there. The same thing if anyone else, Madam Chair, if you wanted to use part of the D1 MSTU funding for Parks and Rec to go to a Titusville park or a park that's being leased to Titusville, as far as I'm concerned, that's your prerogative. I'm not going to interfere with that, but it really needs to be coming out of that specific district's bucket if that's something that specific commissioner wants to make happen. So I'll try to be flexible to the degree that I can, but I just can't have folks in D2 subsidizing something that in effect is treated as a municipal park in another district, and I wouldn't expect you guys to do that for me either.
Okay, when are we going to hear information on this park? Is it anything coming up anytime soon, or?
The ball is in the court of Satellite Beach.
Having a meeting with them on Monday.
Are you doing the road trip too?
No, they're coming up to our office.
It's a pretty trip.
It is pretty. It's very beautiful there.
It's in their court.
Okay. Very interested in hear what they come with. Commissioner Tabaya.
No report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of things. I gave you folks a letter that I wrote to our different House representatives and state senators, and it's pretty self-explanatory. So basically what we're trying to do with the CFX is buy 528 to the port. And the reason I had that idea when I was chair was because they have a whole lot more money than we do, and they can do the improvements and the expansions, and we would benefit because it's in our county. Because right now, 528 is owned by CFX up to our border. We own it beyond there. So what I'm asking all of you folks to do is reach out to our representatives as well, and if so inclined, encourage them to reach out to Governor DeSantis. Because right now, CFX is in discussions with the governor's office to do this exact thing, and FDOT is just digging their heels in and saying they don't want to play. So we need to circumvent FDOT and go right to the governor, and hopefully our representatives can do that. So simple enough.
Okay, sir.
And the other thing I wanted to, Logan, are you ready with my picture? We have a picture.
Going once, going twice.
No, that's not it. No, it's supposed to be a helicopter. That doesn't look like any helicopter.
It's camouflaged.
And my staff said they had it taken care of 2 weeks ago.
Whoops.
So, anyway, take my word for it. This is a helicopter.
Okay.
I took a picture when, and where we're going with this is that the folks that brought the helicopter, the Vietnam helicopter, they were just gushing with thankfulness to my fellow commissioners for making that happen. They said that the response was phenomenal to the people. Some people looked at it like an amusement ride, but they also said there were lots and lots of people, men and women, there it is, that just were emotionally overcome to see this thing and brought back memories and all the rest. So they wanted me to pass that on to you guys.
Thank you. That is wonderful.
That's it.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
You mind if I ask Commissioner Smith a couple questions about his presentation?
No, sir, go ahead.
I appreciate it. So a couple questions, or at least maybe points to think about, Commissioner Smith, as I would definitely like to have a conversation with you. Unfortunately, it's got to be with sunshine. I don't necessarily oppose the concept of having CFX take over 528, but I do have a couple concerns that I think need to be looked into or considered before we actually go forward with really pushing any entity to effectuate that transfer. Firstly, as I'm sure you're well aware, both the IRL Council, on which you now serve, also the TPO, and I believe even the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, and possibly even the BOCC, have put forward resolutions and made it known by and large unanimously that there are concerns with respect to the planned construction for 528, the planned widening for 528, and in particular its impact on the lagoon with respect to water flow and impeding the movement of water. I would just be concerned that CFX has a compatible vision with our own and with those other entities on which you now serve and I now serve. Beyond that, the only other concern I have is what they would intend to do and whether there would be anything precluding them in the future, near future, intermediate future, far future, from implementing additional tolls in Brevard County on that roadway. I can tell you that it concerns me in particular because from my office window, I look at a piece of 528 as it passes over State Road 3. I can tell you that we do have a decent population density that relies on that road, especially with the port being at the far end of it. I just want to make sure that even if we end up with a better funded, nicer road, we don't end up with a better funded, nicer road that is going to cost us tremendously more locally. So if there are additional details that you're able to ascertain and bring back to the commission, I would be very curious to hear what the plans are with respect to construction, widening namely, and then also with respect to the possibility of tolling within here. To me, truth be told, the impact on the water quality is the more important of the two concerns, but they both certainly apply. If they have good answers for those, I certainly will do everything in my power to support you and your efforts with respect to getting CFX to take it over. But if there's a concern that just can't be resolved on one of those fronts, unfortunately, I don't know that I'm going to be on the same side with you on this one.
I think those are good questions that I can ask.
Thank you, sir.
The bridge, as you know, bridges, we, the IRL Council, have been in conversation with FDOT to raise the bridge and create or eliminate the dirt part of the causeways so that whatever flow naturally occurs will occur, even though we know it's not much.
Yes, sir.
Something is better than nothing, which is what we get now. So that's more a question for FDOT than CFX. I don't want to venture to say that they will or will not impose tolls, but I can tell you from the standpoint as a CFX board member, we operate with tolls, and we make sure that our roads are pristine, that they're kept up to date, that we add lanes when we have to, and I would think most people consider the roads that we manage are done very, very well. So if there's going to be a toll, I can't imagine it would be prohibitive, but I will find out.
If there's any mechanism by which we can restrict the worst case possibility on tolls so that we're not finding people having to pay $6 to cross over the Indian River and $7 to cross over the Banana, I would be a lot more comfortable if we could at least limit the downside if it is something that does go in the potential direction of tolls.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would be. We do an awful lot of studies before we impose tolls, and I don't think you'll find any tolls that we charge now that are excessive, and we go out of our way to make it easy to use our roads. We have a first in the country lending program at the Orlando International Airport. When you rent a car over there, you can either pay Alamo or Hertz an excessive amount for a prepaid toll, or you can get one from us for free, and we give you discounts on the tolls as well.
Mr. Menaboo told me when I got into office, he said, Rita, if they charge tolls in the county, make sure the county gets them. He said, because it's millions of dollars, and he said, these guys are going to try to take those tolls. He said, so you make sure that whatever tolls are taken in Brevard County, they stay in Brevard County. So I'm just going to throw that out there to you because he gave me that with severe warning. He said it's a whole lot of money, so.
Well, and like I said, we'll find out. I'll get some ideas on
that's his wise
whether
word.
there will be tolls or how much they will be.
Thank you. I appreciate it, sir.
I would be the first to say that if they're prohibitive, I wouldn't be for it either. But I think the benefit is far outweighs whatever, from my perspective so far, would far outweigh any cost that we're looking at. And if the
Understood.
toll goes to the CFX, they're managing the road, they're taking
Right,
care
well,
of the
they,
road.
they spend it in Brevard County.
Right, well, that's
Right.
what they're going to
So
do.
I'm saying, we'll make sure on that, because he said
Yes.
they'll try to, I'm just telling you, to go talk to Henry. Henry ran the tolls for a long time. He's, yeah, okay,
I got it.
okay.
Just wear your bug repellent. His house is in a
Try not to
particularly
say
swampy
too
area.
much, yeah. Vice Chair Zonka.
No report.
I have a little one, well, this might be like a bigger one, but there's an email sent out to us about fluoride, and it just kind of re-triggered something in me, and I wanted to find out what you guys' appetite was on this. Fluoride is in our water. It is terrible for us. And, you know, even when you go to the dentist, they never have you swallow it. They have you spit it out. And we have it in our MIMS water system. And I talked to Mr. Fontaine, and he agreed. There you are, if you want to come on up. He doesn't think that it's a very good thing to have in the water either. So I wanted to get you guys' hopefully consensus. I'd be ready to vote now, but I don't mind if you want some time to think about it. But I would love to get water out of the North Brevard water, fluoride out of the North Brevard water
Madam
system.
Chair?
The idea of fluoride being in the water, it is, just to make sure we quoted me correctly, so fluoride in the water is an option, it's not a requirement.
Right.
The EPA does not require fluoride to, fluoride doesn't function as a disinfectant of any source, and so it's really an additive added on for the benefit of public health. So just in the brief conversation I had with Nate about this, I was saying that in the future, that where entities, City of Melbourne just went through this, and they basically treat it as a new business item to discuss at a council meeting and whatnot. So if you wanted to go that direction.
I would love to remove it. I myself buy these expensive filters, and I filter the fluoride out before we get it. So, Commissioner Lober, but if you guys need some time, I'm good with that too. But I would love to remove it out of the.
To me, it depends. I agree. I filter the living heck out of my water. Actually, I've got numerous, I think they're 4.5 by 20-inch canisters for sediment, for carbon. And then what I drink, I don't put through a reverse osmosis membrane because that's totally overkill. But for my reef tank, I do. That said, I just, I've heard arguments for and I've heard arguments against. To me, this is one of those things where science is a lot more important to me than subjective opinion. Since we don't have a water supply in D2 that's controlled by the county, I've not really dug into this issue tremendously. With respect to the facility or the infrastructure that you're talking about, is it solely within District 1?
It's the North Brevard MIMS.
Yeah, if it's solely in your district, you tell
Barefoot
me what
Bay
you want to do and I'll
removed
support you.
theirs was for unincorporated.
Yeah, if it's solely in D1, whatever you want to do, if you want to do it tonight, I'll support it. If you want to do it down the road, I'll support it.
Okay, I would love someone to make a motion for me to work on removing it from the North Brevard water.
I'll go ahead and make that motion for you.
Motion, do I have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Second for discussion, Commissioner Isnardi. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Do you have any concerns about it being removed? I know I've read studies on both, and
Like I said, Commissioner, this is really, the component of fluoride is public health. I'm not, from my perspective as a utility director, my focus is about meeting clean water standards. So.
but it's your water. How do you feel about it being in there?
It's like Commissioner Lober said, there's a lot of science for and against it. It's what's your opinion of fluoride?
And back in the day, my kid's 22 and luckily he's fine, but
Right.
it was encouraged to put fluoride in your water.
Yep.
Or
They used to
drink
have
fluorinated
tablets.
water,
Yeah.
when you were on a well.
And the
'Cause I was
other
on a well when my children were little.
And the other thing to know is fluoride is natural in the well. So it's not about if, a lot of utilities, most of them do add fluoride, but even if you stop doing that, you still get fluoride naturally from the water. It's just not at a higher parts per million as it would normally be.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. I know it raises the risk for blood pressure, heart, it ages you quicker. I mean, yeah, I don't let it in my body at all. Commissioner Tobias?
As far as public health goes, major dental groups are in support of this. Florida Dental Association, I know when I was in Tallahassee, and the American Dental Association are in favor of this. I don't know that aging you quicker. I'm not sure one way or another. All I have is what folks in the dental business advocate, and I don't remember what the reason was, whether it's less cavities or, I would think that for their business model, right, they would want more cavities. So here, for a public health model, right, I think it's probably a benefit, but again, something I would need to look at more, but certainly would go with Dr. Zonka on this one, as she certainly has more public health knowledge than what I would, but as our expert on the board, I'll go with Commissioner Zonka on this one.
Okay. Yeah. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. So if you start working on it, it'd be great.
Okay. So did I miss something? Did somebody say that fluoride makes you age or be younger?
They did some studies with the people in India. They have higher amounts of fluoride in their water, and they look a lot older than other demographics. So
Well, I've had fluoride in my water my whole life, and I'm 97.
Madam Chair?
I look pretty good for 97.
You don't look a day over 80. Commissioner Lover.
Yeah, just out of, if nothing other than an anecdotal story that I had heard, I had a professor in college, taught biomedical ethics of all things. I think he's up at UK now in Kentucky. He's originally from Hong Kong, and he told me that essentially, and again, I don't know how much of this is accurate, because I'm going from many, many years ago of my recollection, that the British fluorinated the living heck out of the water in Hong Kong, basically to see what would happen, to use the folks there as guinea pigs. And he said that a couple different things happened. And I'm not saying it's even remotely at the level that it is here. I understand that to have been substantially, maybe orders of magnitude higher than what they do here. But he said that he had never had a cavity, but that other folks also tended to avoid cavities either entirely or substantially, but the downside was they had either throat cancer or mouth cancer and some other things. So to me, I'd probably rather have the cavity than the cancer. But again, you're talking about an extreme example where, there was a high multiple perhaps of the fluoride that was put in. So again, to me, it's something where whatever you want to do when this comes back, if it's solely affecting your district, you tell me and I'll sign on the dotted line.
The rest of that you forgot to tell us was he didn't have any teeth either.
No, he didn't have all of his teeth, at least when he smiled.
That's why he didn't have any cavities.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting adjourned. Y'all have a good evening.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.